Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagavaraham samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu. Anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattadeva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Namo tassa samma sambuddhassa. Swakhato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipassiko apanayako pachatang veditavvo vinnuhiti. Namo tassa niyanika sadammassa. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sango ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sango nyaya patipanno bhagavato savaka sango samici patipanno bhagavato savaka sango yadidam chattari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato savaka sango ahuneyo pahuneyo dakkineyo anjali karaniyo Anuttarang punyaketang lokasati. Namo tassa atta ariya puggala mahasangasa. Sadhu sadhu. So today's topic is like the ways and means to fulfill these the so-called paramis. One will get some ideas, some tips, some insights into how to work upon these paramis, perfections, through these Jaataka stories. That is the very idea of most of Dhamma talks, Dhamma discourses, Dhamma given by Buddha, so that the people should understand how to perform meritorious actions, how to convert these meritorious actions into perfections, paramis. So what is the difference between meritorious action and a perfection? Punya and parami. Punya is anything that is good for me, good for others, which will help me to build my mind, build my intelligence, build my health, build my energy levels, build my wisdom, like truthfulness, like generosity, like Shila, morality, moral conduct. All these things will make me strong. At the same time, make me happy also, make me peaceful also, make me intelligent also. At the same time, it will it will serve others also. It will make others also happy. That is what is a good action, How you can define good and bad. A good action is one which is good for me, good for others. What is the meaning of good here? Good means which will make me happy, which will make me peaceful, which will make me intelligent, which will make me skillful. At the same time, it will make others also happy, skillful, healthy, intelligent. So that is what is goodness. So that good for me and good for others also. That wholesomeness should be there. That holistic approach should be there in our actions, in our thoughts, in our speech. Then it is good. Okay? So that kind of goodness, so we can say we have to cultivate. By performing so many good actions. A few actions are definitely good. So those actions are called, those good actions are called meritorious actions. There are 10 meritorious actions that many of you know, like generosity, like morality, like meditation, mindfulness, culturing the mind, developing the mind, as many of you are doing it, are working on it by practicing these right view meditations and respecting the respectables. Because once you learn how to respect the respectables, then you can tune to their qualities, and then you too will become a respectable person. In the sense, how a person will be respected and why a person will be respected. Whom can you call or consider as a respectable person? One who has wisdom, one who has virtue, one who has skillfulness, one who has maturity, one who has insights of what is good, what is not good, and accordingly leading his life. He is a respectable person. So once you learn how to respect such a respectable person, then you will be tuned to his qualities, and sooner or later you too will become a respectable person. So because of that reason, respecting the respectables, apachayana, it's also a meritorious action. Because it is an easy way of growing, progressing in this say mind culture, mind cultivation, cultivating the good qualities. That is the easiest way. Then Vayyavacha, serving skillfully. In that very skillful service, you develop a lot of wisdom, lot of say intelligence, lot of that skillfulness, that excellence. That is very much required in your other professions, in other say actions also. But when you are into this kind of one service, one very absolutely selfless service, very powerful service, spiritual service, like this right view service, then you can learn, you can develop a lot of skillfulness. So many dimensions of the mind will open up, and that in turn will help you to perform other actions for your livelihood, for your career, profession, that whatever you are doing. There also you can make use of this skillfulness that you have developed, that you have learned in the selfless service, the voluntary service. So that's why service is also very much appreciated, and it is considered as a meritorious action, a merit, a punya kriya. And in the same way, showing our concern, our respect, our gratitude to our departed relatives, like parents if they are no more, grandparents or any departed relatives, and then to the divine beings, who directly or indirectly who are protecting us, and other beings also, so that our metta, our loving kindness to all the beings, so that we can connect to all the beings with this pure thought, good thought, that empathy we can cultivate. So because of that reason, this punyanumodana, which comprises of two things, like one is pattidana and other one is pattanumodana. This many of you may be aware. But just as an introduction to these paramis, I am telling about this punya kriyas also, meritorious actions also. So these pattanumodana and pattidana, like appreciating others' merits, instead of becoming jealous and appreciating, rejoicing in others' merits also, it will immediately connect you to such merits, and it will immediately pass on to you, it will be induced into your psyche also. That is what is called pattanumodana. So anumodana means appreciating and rejoicing. Patta means whatever punya that you have obtained, you have gained, that other person is gaining, that you see and you appreciate and you rejoice in it, then it is called pattanumodana. Pattidana means whatever punya you have gained, dana again sharing it with others, like the departed relatives, to the divine beings, to all other beings. That is what is called pattidana. And both these two, if you combine, then it becomes punyanumodana. So these two are also meritorious actions, which will again open up your mind, which will again make you more selfless, more wise, more skillful, more happy, more peaceful. And of course, listening to Dhamma, discussing Dhamma respectfully, with gratitude, with humbleness. So that is also those two, listening to Dhamma and discussing the Dhamma, asking questions about what is right, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. So that kind of discussion is called Dhamma Sakacha. So that is also one meritorious action. Then straightening your view, cultivating, developing, progressing in this right view, that many of you of course who are into that right view, and straightening that right view, developing that right view, keep on progressing in that right view, that is also a meritorious action. So these 10 meritorious actions, one has to definitely cultivate, whether he is a lay person or a renunciate. And if these 10 meritorious actions generally people cultivate for the sake of happiness, for the sake of better rebirth, for the sake of happiness here and now, and also hereafter to obtain a superior rebirth, a more happy rebirth. So generally people practice these meritorious actions. But these meritorious actions, if with an intention of emancipation, with an intention of achieving Nibbana, absolute liberation, complete liberation, emancipation, which is the highest happiness, the supreme bliss. For that sake, if a person practices the merits and meritorious actions, then they become Pāramitas. Pāramitas or Pāramis, because they are perfections, by perfect merits. That way you can remember. Meritorious actions, when they become perfect, perfect in the sense they will liberate you completely, and it will emancipate you from all these repeated births and deaths. That means you achieve Nibbana. Then it is called a Pārami or perfection or Pāramitā. Again, many people they define this Pārami, they classify or they mention so many Pāramis. In Mahayana they mention about some 6 Pāramis. It's again not like fixed. It's not like only these 6 Pāramis. In different sects they have their own Pāramitas. And in Theravada they say about some 10 Pāramitas. But all of them, they are merits only. These meritorious actions only. But with an intention of absolute liberation, with full, complete 100% heart and mind, they perform with an intention, with an objective of liberation. So that kind of, absolute interest for liberation, for emancipation, so that is what is called a Pāramitā. So there are of course so many kinds of Pāramitas. Again here generally in Theravada they say 10 Pāramitas, like Metta is a Pārami, loving kindness. One has to develop tremendous loving kindness. One has to learn how to connect oneself with each and every human being, with each and every divine being, with each and every even non-human being, even every animal, every living being. One should relate, one should empathize, one should feel any other being as his own self, his own being, and he should learn to protect, he should learn to take care of it, or at least he should learn to develop, at least to connect with it, to empathize with it. So Buddha says, I am ready to die even for one small insect. So that is an absolute, complete fulfillment of this Metta Pārami. So much concern for each and every living being. And truthfulness is also one Pārami. Like for the sake of truth, for the sake of commitment, for the sake of promise, for the sake of giving word, one should be in a position to give and give up any damn thing that he is possessing, he is holding on to. That is what is truthfulness. Keeping up the promises, keeping up the words and promises. Like people with half-heartedness, if they give promise, if they give the word, they simply escape from it. They simply run away from it. Nobody will appreciate such people. They will think such people as very mean and very useless and very irresponsible, and nobody will give them work also for such people, and they won't progress. That's why I told our coordinators also, if you have full interest, then you work for me, otherwise get lost. That half-heartedness will neither help you, neither help the organization, help the other people, help me, and it will only corrupt you. Such people, such corrupted minds I don't want. Nobody wants, for that matter, not only me. Nobody wants such kind of half-hearted, stupid fellows. It should be like complete. Once I promise, once I give a word, I should stick on to it. Hmm? So that is what is called truthfulness, Satcha Parami. And in the same way, there is something called Dana Parami. Again, Dana, if it is fulfilled with absolute commitment, with an intention of liberation, ultimate liberation, it becomes Dana Parami. Dana Punya Kriya. Dana meritorious actions, meritorious action, generosity, meritorious action becomes generosity perfection, generosity Parami. Because your intention is like becoming a superior intention to achieve what is called that Nibbanic bliss, Nibbanic happiness. Sometime back as I was telling about the different kinds of happiness. If a person is completely focused on Nibbanic happiness and he wants to make all his actions, meritorious actions, as like these perfect actions which will emancipate him from these worldly repeated births and deaths, and he is aspiring for this Nibbanic happiness, then that kind of action is called a parami or a perfection. Those who are working for the remaining, the other three happinesses, like the human happiness, like the divine happiness and the Brahmic happiness, so they are like your meritorious actions, like Punya Kriyas. People who are into these Punya Kriyas, they enjoy these three kinds of happiness. Human happiness, this divine happiness and the Brahmic happiness. Whereas a person who is working on these paramis, who is converting these Punya Kriyas with complete conviction of achieving Nibbana, then such kind of actions are called perfections or paramis. Again, Shila is also a perfection. Of course, you have to practice the Shila, the moral actions, the perfect moral actions, like not to kill, not to steal, not to indulge in sexual misconduct, not to lie, not to take intoxicants. All these things with an intention of absolute liberation. Very seriously, if you are practicing, then it becomes a parami, a perfection. Then Adittana. Adittana means like resolution, great resolve. Once you resolve, a bigger resolution generally, like to achieve something bigger. So if you resolve, then it is called Adittana. Like I don't take food for so many days, or I don't take evening food. I meditate without opening my eyes, without opening my legs for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That kind of resolution, that kind of resolve if you make, it's called Adittana. And sometimes Buddha as Bodhisattva used to make resolve for so many great things, like resolve to say swim so many days. I resolve to say protect these people at any cost. That way, that kind of resolution is called Adittana Parami. Adittana with some superior intentions, with some superior efforts. If you make those resolutions, it is called Adittana Parami. Then comes, then there are of course so many other things like Upekka Parami, Upeksha or Upekka Parami, like becoming very indifferent in ups and downs of the life, in praise and blame, in profit and loss. Many a times we have to go through these ups and downs in the life, and maintaining that equanimity, that mental balance, that mental equipoise. So it is called equanimity parami. That is also like very, very important. That is actually the indication of your spiritual progress. Higher your equanimity, higher you are progressing in spirituality. So that kind of say mental equipoise at or the dichotomies or the vicissitudes of the life, that means praise and blame, the opposites of the life. When you can maintain that mental equipoise, it is called equanimity. Very wise people, very developed, matured people, they may used to maintain that kind of equanimity at very, very difficult times also. In that kind of equanimity, how Buddha as a Bodhisattva maintained in his previous lives. That is what is given in these Jataka tales, and some Jataka tales which will give lot of clarity about this equanimity. That also we can see. And And in the same way, there is something called Kanti Parmi. Kanti means like patience. Patience is also one of a very powerful virtue. And of course, equanimity and patience, like they go together. Or if you have actually patience very thoroughly cultivated, then it becomes equanimity. Because when you have to tolerate something that is painful, first you have to have patience. Then in that painful situation also, if you can learn how to observe or how to observe that painful situation with equipoised mind, with balanced mind, then it becomes equanimity. So that way, some of these parmis, they go together. You can't say compartmentalize them. This parmi comes under only in this compartment. This parmi, it is only in this compartment. In that way, you can't compartmentalize. These parmis are punya kriyas, are perfections. So they overlap. Many a times they overlap. If you are truthful, then definitely you will become loving also. Or if you become loving and truthful, which will help everyone in a more holistic way, then you practice both loving kindness and truthfulness. And again, the wisdom itself is a very, very powerful parmi, that is very important. Buddha means buddhi or wisdom. That's what Bodhisattva cultivated in so many millions and millions of lives. That buddhi, that wisdom is an integral part in the cultivation of all parmis. To cultivate all parmis, all perfections, that buddhi, that the skillfulness, that sharpness of the mind, which is based on awareness, which is based on skillful analysis, which is based on intelligence, the sharpness of the mind, that is what is buddhi. That is very much cultivated by being in the present moment, by being skillful, by being watchful, by being heedful and mindful. Buddha cultivated this wisdom parmi, this panya parmi also in so many lives. So in that way, we will see some Jataka tales which are related to this one of these parmis. Of course, as I told you, there is a lot of overlapping. If you are practicing generosity, there will be some kind of loving kindness also. Generosity, you can't completely separate generosity or generous attitude from your loving kindness, from your metta mind. From your loving kindness, you can't completely separate this generosity. So because of this reason, so there will be definitely there is an overlapping. But still, one or two paramis we can highlight in each one of these Jataka tales. Though there may be some other paramis also, but one or two paramis, they look very conspicuous in the Jataka tale. It looks very anybody can easily find out, oh, this is what Buddha is cultivating here now in this story. He wants to cultivate generosity, he wants to cultivate truthfulness. That one thing can be highlighted in each one of these Jataka stories. And in different countries, Buddhist countries, in Thailand, they have selected some 10 Jataka stories, and they so many some dance programs, some singing programs, some skits, some dramas. They perform, they enact, so that the people can understand, the audience can understand about the importance of that parmi. It is like patronized by the kings, like the big monasteries, the kings and all, because they want to teach this righteousness, this ethics, this righteousness to the people through these stories. And stories, of course, one can narrate directly, and it can be presented in the form of dramas, in the form of dances, in the form of songs also. They can be enacted, they can be demonstrated, they can be taught. So again in Myanmar, in Burma also, So they just selected some 10 stories, and they want to highlight these 10 paramis through those 10 stories. In the same way, in some other Buddhist countries also, they just select some 10 stories to highlight these 10 paramis, these 10 perfections. Now maybe a few stories we will see now today, and then which parami that we can highlight in this particular story, that also we will see. So that through stories, imbibing the spirit of these paramis and getting inspired and motivated by these stories to cultivate these paramis, that is the purpose of this Dhamma talk, For that matter, for all the Dhamma talks, that is the purpose. But here through stories it may be more easier. It is easier and it may be more fascinating also, more interesting also. So that is the idea of selecting these some stories. In those stories, how this Bodhisattva, the previous life of Buddha, in the previous life of Buddha, how this Bodhisattva, he fulfilled the parami. All this fulfillment of paramis, the selfishness will go, the attachment will go, that I-ness, minus will go, that ego, that pride, that arrogance will go. That is the very purpose. That is what is spiritual growth. That is what is the path of emancipation. The more you are holding on to I and me, the more you are bound to this worldliness. The more you give up this I and me, then you are going in the path of liberation. Is it not? So you should know the very skillful means to give up this I and me, because it is very difficult, Some wise people say this I-ness and this ego or this attachment is like bubble gum. If you give up one aspect of I or one kind of I, we will stick on to another I. If you give up one attachment, which is again rooted in I, maybe some other attachment will get attached to us, or we get attached to some other attachment. Some other I will develop in us. So holistically, in an integrated way, to curb this, to cut this I, is a great skillful act. For that you require a lot of maturity, lot of wisdom, lot of all these paramis are required. That's why Bodhisattva has to cultivate for so many lives this kind of skillfulness through these different paramis to disconnect, to detach these different kinds of attachments which are rooted on this I and me, this ego. So that's what is his effort in so many lives. And Jaataka stories, they narrate his efforts to curb his own I, his own attachment, his own selfishness. That's what is the message of all Jaataka stories. And these 10 phases are there. These 10 paramis are the 10 phases of curbing or disconnecting or reducing or detaching from these attachments, from this I, from this ego. That's all. These 10 paramis are the 10 phases of achieving this I-lessness or this egolessness. Because that is the way to get superior happiness, that is the way to achieve divine happiness, Brahmic happiness and the Nibbanic happiness. Buddha was very clear from so many lives that Nibbanic happiness is only the true happiness. All other happiness, they are always mixed with a lot of suffering also, that he was very clear. So that's why he is very focused on Nibbanic happiness only. That's why all his efforts, punyas, the good actions, the punyas, they become the paramis, because in his mind he was very clear that his goal, his intention is Nibbanic happiness only. That kind of Nibbanic happiness oriented good actions are called the paramis, are called the perfections, and that's what Buddha used to work for millions and millions of lives. And there are some 540 or so, 550 stories he only narrated, in different circumstances, when he was talking to some monks, when he was talking to some kings, some audience of, some youngsters or some women. He used to remember one of his previous life and how he cultivated one of the virtues, one of these perfections in that previous lives, so that the people get motivated to cultivate that good action, to cultivate that meritorious action, and they can convert it into a perfect action also, a parmi also, just to motivate the people to indulge in these meritorious actions, to indulge in these perfect actions, to work for the emancipation, to achieve the Nibbanic happiness. Buddha used to quote some of these incidents from his previous lives also as Bodhisattva, and they are called the Jataka tales. And as I was telling you, one or two of these parmis can be highlighted from each one of the Jataka tales, and we take up at least one or two Jataka tales today, and we will see which perfection can be highlighted in those Jataka tales also. We will see, and maybe we will get some insights of how to cultivate that particular parmi, and a few more things, a few more tips of cultivating these parmis, and the purpose of life, purpose of Dhamma, purpose of right view, how it helps this right view Dhamma, which is rooted, of course, which can be learned through these perfections, which can be learned through these Jataka stories also. And that you can just observe. Definitely it will help you to comprehend the right view, comprehend what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. That kind of clarity will definitely get. So now we take up these different stories one by one. Maybe at least one or two stories today we will see, and next week also we can continue with some other stories. Next week or next to next week also. Now there is one story, one Jataka story. It's called Maha Ummagga Jataka. This is about the wisdom parmi, how Buddha is interested in cultivating the so-called wisdom. Wisdom means what? Wisdom means solving the puzzle, solving the say some problems of the people, or of oneself, of the family, of the society. Because people get stuck up in the conflicts. This is right, this is wrong. I am right, you are wrong. The same thing will be there in the other's mind also, very seriously. No, I am right, he is wrong. So that's what is conflict. And of course, the world is full of conflicts, starting from within an individual, in a family, in a group of even two people. About two people, even within one's own mind, there will be two opposite ideas which will create conflict. This idea seems to be good. No, this idea seems to be good. Then the conflict arises. So bringing in the clarity in the midst of conflict and confusion, that is what is wisdom. I repeat, bringing in the clarity in the midst of conflict and confusion, that is what is wisdom. And that is very, very essential. Even though if you are alone, to come out of these conflicting ideas within your mind, you require wisdom. Forget about solving the problems of the people around you. Even your own mental problems, your own ideas within the mind, your own mind. You require what is called that clarity. So that you can come out of confusion and conflict. Even the world wars are also rooted in this kind of conflict solving. It requires wisdom, it requires wise people. The stupid people, these monotheistic stupid people, they fight like barbarians. Like now you see started this conflict in Israel, like in Ukraine, in Israel. Absolute confused, stupid barbarians. absolute, they don't have any kind of clarity. That's why they fight like some animals. Animals are better. Animals fight for some food or something like that. With ego, with lot of attachment, with lot of arrogance, with lot of stupidity, they fight. Absolute. It is like Rakshasas, demons. They are like demons. They are demons only. They are not humans. Killing each other with absolute rigidness of the mind, absolute stubbornness of the mind. There is no sensitivity, there is no skillfulness, there is no wisdom. Forget about wisdom. Even a little bit of sensitivity also they lack. That's why they fight like such barbaric bastards, barbaric buffoons. That is because of the lack of wisdom, this panya parmi. One has to work on it. That is the very purpose of actually the human life. Developing the mind. Mana ussati iti manusya. That very aspiration these animals, these barbarians, they lack. In the name of some belief, some structure, some nonsense they want to protect. And they kill like anything, kill like barbaric brutes. Very unfortunate. Of course, that's what is human life. That's why Buddha says it is dukkha. One need not, of course, bother too much about that. One should mind one's own business. One should work on one's own mind. One should mind his own mind. That is what is Buddha's approach. And of course, as much as possible, to fulfill these parmis of metta and all, one should help others also, as much as according to his own capacity. That's what all bodhisattvas did. In all his previous lives also, that's what Buddha did. In all his lives also, he had to see all this kind of nonsense of the people. His own relatives, his own clan people, like the Sakya, they used to fight among themselves with others, with their other relatives also. Buddha used to do whatever he wants to do. If it goes beyond his control, if their karma, if their bad karma overpowers the Buddha's compassion and wisdom, then they fight among themselves and they die. That's what happened even in the last life of Buddha, as the supremely enlightened Buddha. During that time also, like the Gautama Buddha, his own relatives, they fought among themselves and they died. You know that story of when one son of one slave woman, King Pasena, this slave wife, and she was actually the lady from Buddha's clan, Sakya clan. And that very son, he destroyed his mother's relatives, all his mother's relatives. Vidudabha, his name Vidudabha. Buddha tried to stop it for some 3-4 times, but their evil actions, evil karma was so powerful. They were supposed to die because of their evil actions. So he just allowed it, and he destroyed all his relatives, this Vidudabha. So in that way it is very much there. That's how the human life is an imperfect life, where a lot of violence, lot of ignorance, lot of this conflict is very much there. But even as Buddha, he just let go it. So then definitely as an ordinary human being, one should not take it so seriously and get carried away, develop a lot of affliction, worry, tension. That also many people do. Those things, that's again ignorance, that again like not wisdom. So in that way, wisdom is like good for me, good for others, solving the solutions as intelligently as possible, with as much metta as possible, with as much truthfulness as possible, solving the conflicts, solving the confusion, removing the confusion and solving the conflict. That is wisdom. So how Buddha as Bodhisattva cultivated this wisdom in so many lives that we will see. Of course, in all the lives, he used to work on his mind. There is no doubt in it. He used to be mindful. He used to be skillful in solving the things. Karmasu kaushalam, each and every action. Kaushalam, skillfulness he used to do. Buddha, that is the way to develop Panya Parmi, the wisdom Parmi. Don't do the things with half-heartedness, with blindness. Do each and everything with loving kindness, with happiness, with skillfulness. That is the way to cultivate wisdom Parmi. That's what I tell all my volunteers and all my coordinators, all my meditators. Do the things skillfully, joyfully, humbleness, with gratitude, with respect. Then it will add up to your wisdom Parmi. Don't bring in any kind of selfishness, any kind of ego, any kind of show off. Then it becomes what happens. It will become a it will take you into attachment. It will take you into ignorance. It will corrupt you more. So bring in this what is called this kaushala, this skillfulness in your actions. Then you are working on the wisdom Parmi, Panya Parmi. So this Maha Umagga also, in this Jataka also, we are going to see how Bodhisattva, even as a small boy, young boy, how he started working on in all aspects of life. If he wants to construct some building, how he has to put his 100% into it and very skillfully involving that architecture in creating very, very special buildings. Skillfulness should lead to that specialness or that uniqueness. Then only it becomes wisdom. Then only it is intelligence. So routine things, blindly doing, without mindfulness doing, or with lot of craving and attachment doing, all these things will not lead to wisdom, will not lead to skillfulness. Skillfulness involves this innovativeness, this creativity, that non-routine, that happy mood. All these things should involve. Then only it becomes a skillful action, and that kind of skillful actions only will lead to wisdom. Cultivating wisdom Parmi, Panya Parmi. Panya means wisdom. Now we will see this Maha Umagga Jataka and how Buddha fulfilled this. He worked on this fulfillment of wisdom Parmi. That we will see. Bodhisattva was once a king's advisor. On the day the Bodhisattva was conceived in his mother's womb, King Vedaha dreamed of tall columns of the fire in the four corners of the palace's royal court, and in the middle of them was a fifth flame, the size of a firefly, that suddenly blazed up into heaven. So King Vedaha, it was like, of course, very ancient time. There was one king by name Vedaha. So his advisor was Bodhisattva, but at the time of the birth of this Bodhisattva itself, the king, he dreamt about the birth of Bodhisattva. And that dream they are explaining here. In the four corners there was a fire, but in the midst of that one small firefly it appears, but it became a very big fire and it started spreading even to the heavens. That means one small person will take birth, and with his wisdom he will completely conquer the minds and the hearts of the kings, the divine beings also, the devas, divine beings also. That's what is the meaning of this dream. That dream, this king, he dreamt, and he got some clue that there's something special will happen in his kingdom. That is the birth of Bodhisattva. That something special is the birth of Bodhisattva. The fire did not harm anybody, and people worshipped it. That small fire which became a big fire which used to engulf the whole, even the divine realms, it didn't harm anyone. Rather, people started worshipping that fire. That means, like these bodhisattvas, they don't harm anyone. Rather, they help millions and millions of beings in sorting out, in getting solution for so many conflicts the people are facing. That's what is the indication of this dream. The dream terrified the king, and at dawn he summoned his four advisors. They explained that the dream meant prosperity for the king because a fifth advisor, wiser than all other men and gods, would soon be born and eventually serve him. There were already 4 advisors, like the 4 fires that in his dream that he dreamt, the 4 fires. In the midst of it, one small fire also will arise. That means one 5th advisor also will come, will take birth, and he will definitely render a great service to the king and also to his people, his subjects, and to the whole world, even to the divine beings. He will render a great service through his wisdom. So that's what this dream indicates. He did not worry. So in that way, these advisors told the king. Indra, king of the gods, wanted everyone on earth and in the heavens to know that a future perfect Buddha had been born. So on that day, he placed a medicinal herb in the Bodhisattva's hand while he was still in the womb. Sometimes this Sakka to show to the world that the great virtues of the Bodhisattvas. Sometimes they create some problem for the Bodhisattvas. Sometimes they support the Bodhisattvas. By creating some problem, how Bodhisattvas solve that problem? By seeing that the people will develop a lot of faith, lot of devotion, lot of respect and devotion to Bodhisattva. Thereby, it will help the people. And by helping Bodhisattvas, again, they can, the people can be, like say, will develop more devotion in both the ways, in the positive and negative ways. These divine beings, they help Buddhas, they help the people, they help the Bodhisattvas to fulfill their paramis. Sometimes creating some obstacle, they help the Bodhisattvas to develop some paramis. Sometimes by supporting the Bodhisattvas, they help the Bodhisattvas to develop the paramis. In both the ways, just like a good teacher, good teacher sometimes by creating some problem for the students, he helps the students to develop the wisdom of solving those problems. Sometimes when the student he is absolutely, like say, in his low spirits, then sometimes the teachers will help. In the same way, these divine beings like Sakka, in both the ways, in the positive and negative ways, they used to help Bodhisattvas. So now what this Sakka, this Indra, what he did, he brought one medicinal herb and he gave it to this Bodhisattva when he was in the womb itself, for that fetus, for that infant inside the womb. So he gave one medicinal herb, medicinal plant. Medicinal herb was given to this Bodhisattva's hand when he was still in the womb. The Bodhisattva's delivery caused his mother no pain, because like these medicinal virtues he has taken birth. That medicinal herb indicates that he has these medical virtues, like healing virtues. This Bodhisattva has developed even when he was in the womb of his mother. From that time itself, he developed these medicinal virtues, these healing virtues, these curing virtues. Because of that reason, his mother, she developed no pain to deliver him. He came out as easily as water from a sacred pot. And he told her to give the medicine to people afflicted with ailments of any kind. She ground it into a powder and just a dash applied to his father's forehead cured a headache that had persisted for 7 years. He was born into this big merchant's family, and his father was like having a headache for 7 years. And because of this medicinal herb, that he was born with this medicinal herb, this Bodhisattva, he asked his mother to prepare powder and give it to all kinds of people who are suffering from different kinds of ailments, so that their health issues can be resolved, can be solved. So from that very birth itself, he is born with these medicinal skills, these medical skills. And of course, you see there, the wisdom of medical skills is one thing. And the second thing is the compassion also, the loving kindness also. So to cure people, to handle the ailments of the different people, including his father, was suffering from headache for 7 years. Word spread and all who were sick came to the Bodhisattva's house for some medicine and it cured their diseases. So in that way, he became at very young age itself, he became a great doctor who used to cure these health issues, these diseases. Indra had sent 1,000 other boys to earth along with the Bodhisattva to become his servants. At the same time, 1,000 boys were also born, who were sent by Indra, and all those 1,000 boys became the Bodhisattva's servants. The Bodhisattva's father, a wealthy merchant, knew that such a special child must have been sent by the gods and would not have come alone. So he hired nurses and gave clothing to all the children born on the same day, and they all grew up playing together in the village. In the same village, all of them, they were taken birth. And he knew, the Bodhisattva's father, that my son is he is sent by the divine beings. He is not an ordinary being because he has this curing or this healing ability. So the children who are born at the same time, they also must be sent by these divine beings. So he started nurturing, caring those 1,000 children also. So in that way, they all grew up playing together in that village or in that area. When he was 7 years old, his mouth still smelling of milk, as the saying goes, the Bodhisattva was as beautiful as a golden statue and as strong as an elephant, and nobody in the whole kingdom was wiser. It's again the question of wisdom. And of course, because of his wholesome actions, meritorious actions, he was born very healthy, he was born very strong, he was born very beautiful, very attractive, this Bodhisattva. Even at the age of 7, he was so strong as an elephant, and he was wiser than the rest of the people, whether they are young or old, whether they are poor or rich, whether they are from any community. He was superior to all of them. Sometimes it frustrated him that his playtime was disturbed by rain, heat and wild animals. After a particularly powerful storm blew in unexpectedly, causing his young companions to fall over each other and hurt themselves as they ran into the house, the Bodhisattva built a play hall. He told each of the 1,000 boys to give him one coin, and he hired a master builder. But even this man could not grasp the Bodhisattva's innovative ideas. You see, so the Bodhisattva drew out the plans himself and helped the builder to follow them. As I was telling you in the beginning of today's talk, skillfulness. Of course, he was born with a lot of skills because he developed a lot of that kind of skillfulness from so many lives. At the very birth itself, he developed a lot of skillfulness as a doctor, as a healer, and also as an architect, You see here in this story. Now the people are struggling to become good doctors and good engineers, but he was born with both those qualities at the very birth itself, the Bodhisattva. The very birth itself, with his, he was born with one medicinal herb, and that indicates that he was a very good doctor. He could cure the diseases of so many kinds of ailments of different kinds of people, different people. At the same time, when there was some problem because of rain, because of storm, they could not play properly because of these disturbances from these natural disturbances. And many of his playmates, they were hurt because of the storm, because of this rain. It created havoc to his friends. Then he thought, I should build one very big play hall. One indoor stadium, one play hall I should build for me and for my friends, so that this rain, this storm should not affect our games or our playtime. These things should not affect. So with that idea, he started designing the building, and he hired one master designer, but he was not happy with his designs. He only started designing. He only started planning, and that with his innovative ideas. So in that way, putting his heart and soul and his intelligence into whatever he is doing, that is what is the way. That is the way to cultivate wisdom, Parmi. That is the way to fulfill this Panya Parmi, one has to definitely work on this. There is no other shortcut. That is what is Yoga Karmasu Kaushala. That is what is the very purpose of human life. Mana Usati Manusha. The way of developing the mind is to learn how to perform the actions skillfully with Kaushala, with Kushalata. So that kind of Kushalata we can see from the birth itself, and also when he was 7 years old we can see his architectural skills, his medical skills we can see from his birth itself, his architectural skills we can see when he was just 7 years old. And he built based on his innovative ideas, very, very creative, innovative ideas. He built this, this hall, play hall. Together they created a hall that rivaled India's heavenly palaces and gardens. Such a beautiful, such an innovative, such, say, the majestic building he could build. So it could rival even the Indra's heavenly palace and garden. Not India, it is Indra's. That means the king of the Devas. Even it was superior than the Indra's palace and his gardens. Such a beautiful play hall he could build, the Bodhisattva could build through his skillfulness, through his innovativeness. That means through his complete involvement, putting forth all his intelligence. That is the way to build the Panya Parmi. So this Jataka is all about Panya Parmi. His medical skills, his architectural skills, how he is building. Though he was born with lot of wisdom, but even from the birth itself, he was working on conflict solving, conflict resolution, conflict resolving through his medical skills, through his architectural skills also. So this the palace or the play hall that he has built, it was better than the heavenly palace of Indra. Besides a place for him to play, there was a court of justice, a hall for religious gatherings, lodging for priests and the destitutes, a place for foreign merchants to store their goods, and an alms hall open to anyone in need. So many things he could integrate, he could bring so many things together in his building or in his like complex of buildings. For the merchants, for the foreign merchants to store their goods, for the religious purposes, like meditation and all these other religious purposes, and then a justice hall where people can gather and he could resolve their conflicts as a judge, as a legal advisor. You see, so from the very conception in his mother's womb, his complete focus is on to resolve different kinds of conflicts that are actually haunting, that are like say crippling the human life, like judiciary issues, like medical issues, like architectural issues, like all these things, where there is a lot of conflict, there is a lot of say problem from the nature, from within the mind, from the health issues, from the diseases. For all these things, all these conflicts, he wanted to solve in the same complex. And that's why he built different kinds of buildings along with his play hall where he is supposed to play with his 1000 playmates. He built all these different kinds of halls. And an alms hall also to feed the destitutes, to feed the monks, to feed the renunciates. He built the alms hall also. Crowds gathered there to hear to Bodhisattva discuss morality and judge the disputes, all with the wisdom and demeanor of a Buddha. After all, he was a Bodhisattva. So, as powerful as a Buddha, he used to resolve so many issues, so many conflicts with his wisdom. After all, that was the very purpose of that birth, to develop that wisdom parmi or the Panya Parmi. So many people used to gather, and he used to give the justice as a judge to judge the disputes. Many people used to gather. So in that way, so he developed his Panyaparmi, even from his very, even from his very birth itself, from the very conception itself in his mother's womb. And at the age of 7, he could achieve this remarkable thing to help so many kinds of people, to resolve so many kinds of issues or disputes. It was at this time that King Vedeha decided to seek the sage foretold in his dream, and he put his 4 advisors on the task. One of the advisors went out the east city gate and saw the Bodhisattva's magnificent building, and he knew that an ordinary person could not have made it. King Vedeha was not knowing about the birth of this Bodhisattva. Only the Indra was knowing, and Indra used to support, of course, in different ways. And his father knew, his Bodhisattva's father, the wealthy merchant, and he used to support Bodhisattva's ideas and Bodhisattva's constructions. And the king was not aware, though of course he was knowing because of his dream, but he was not aware that he was born and he is doing so many wonderful things. And he gave the task to 4 of his advisors, go and find out. Now it may be the time to find out where he is born and what he is doing. The 5th advisor, the Bodhisattva. So one of the advisors, he could come and he could see what's going on in this Bodhisattva's place, in his village. The magnificent building and how he is resolving so many disputes. All these things he could see. One of the 4 advisors of the king, King Vedeha. The people living there told him about the young Bodhisattva and everything fit with the dream's prediction. So he sent a message to the king asking whether he should bring the boy to the palace. He could find out where this Bodhisattva is born, and the people also explained about the great things that are being done by this Bodhisattva in resolving so many kinds of conflicts of the people through his wisdom and his complete focus on his wisdom power. See, that's what is actually the way to develop the confidence also. That's what is the art of living, If you can't work so many things, and if you get confused with so many things, so many alternatives, you should choose one and you should give your 100% into that particular one. That is the way to develop the mind. So here in this life, so as this Maha Umaga, this Bodhisattva, he is working only on his wisdom parmi to resolve so many kinds of disputes in different ways. The disputes or the conflicts or the issues with the health, issues with the, with the natural calamities, with individual, conflicts or the societal conflicts. That's why the justice hall. So with the wisdom, with the economy, like say how to support the foreign merchants so that they could trade well and they could make good profits. From all these angles, he was like working and he was fulfilling his Panya Parmi. At the same time, he was helping millions of people. It was at this time, this one of the advisors, he asked the king whether he could bring this Bodhisattva to the palace, the young boy Bodhisattva. King Vedeha was thrilled by the news and asked his top advisor Senaka whether or not he should summon the Bodhisattva. One of the other advisors, he visited this Bodhisattva's village, and this king was very much happy with the news, and he asked his senior advisor Senaka whether this young boy Bodhisattva should be invited to the palace or we will wait for some time. That's what was the question posed by this King Vedeha to his senior advisor Senaka. Not wanting to lose his status, Senaka told the king that architectural skill is no way to judge a person's wisdom. He was like, say, after all, he was also an advisor and he was also puffed up with the ego that he was also a wise man. And this young boy, he has built one very good palace kind of one hall. So one should not judge one's wisdom just with the architectural skill. After all, he might have built very good building with wonderful architectural skills. But with that only, we should not decide that he is a wise man. He is a wise person. You should not judge his wisdom. The king suspected Senaka's selfish motive, but agreed to investigate further and told the reporting advisor to stay there and watch the Bodhisattva. The king was also, of course, he was a nice and good person and a wise person. He suspected this Senaka's intentions. Senaka may be selfish. So if this young boy comes, then his status may fall down. This Senaka's status may fall down. Because of that selfish reason, he may be avoiding to invite this young Bodhisattva to the palace. So he asked this other advisor who is in that Bodhisattva's village to find out so many other things that what this Bodhisattva is doing and keep informing me. Watch what Bodhisattva is doing. Over the next few days, the advisor reported the following remarkable deeds. Each time King Videha heard about one, he asked Senaka whether it was time to summon the Bodhisattva. And in each case, Senaka said it was only a small matter and they should wait. So many wonderful things that Bodhisattva was doing. When these things were informed to the king, and king used to ask this Senaka, and Senaka again, because of his selfishness, he used to say it's only a meager thing, a small thing, a small matter. Don't give much importance to this. In that way, he used to discourage the king not to invite this young Bodhisattva to the palace. So many small things as a young boy, as a 7 years boy, what Buddha or what this Bodhisattva used to do, how he used to resolve very, very small issues of his friends, of his villagers, those so many things, small things also, it is mentioned here. Many things are there. Of course, I can't go through all those issues that were solved by this Bodhisattva. Maybe one or two we will see. Like say, small things like a man bought some cattle from another village. The next day he took the cattle to graze, and when he fell asleep, a thief stole them. The man woke up just in time to see the thief running off and confronted him. One man, he was taking care of some cattle, but one thief, he stole those cattle, but somehow he could catch that thief, and they started confronting him. They confronted him, they started quarreling. They started arguing, both claiming to own the cattle. The thief and the real owner, both of them, they started claiming that the cattle belonged to, me and me. In that way, the thief was also telling, and this real owner also was telling. After the two pleaded their cases, the Bodhisattva asked each man what they fed the cows. A young boy, 7 years boy, you see his intelligence. So all right, now you are saying that this belongs to you, this belongs to you. Now tell me what you have fed to the cattle. The first man answered, so he fed the cattle the rice gruel, sesame flour and beans, while the second said he could not afford to buy food for his cows, which is why he took them to eat grass in the field. The real owner, he said, or one person said that he took the cattle to graze in the grass field because he could not afford to feed the cattle with these beans, with this sesame flour and the rice gruel and all. He could not feed. But the first person said he fed the cattle with all these nice things like rice gruel, sesame flour and kidney beans and all. Then what this Bodhisattva did? The Bodhisattva fed the cows with some seeds which will make the cows to vomit, and they started vomiting up grass. So the thief was caught by his own lie. So the cattle could not vomit the sesame flour or the rice gruel. It could vomit only the grass. Then the thief who lied that he fed the cattle with rice gruel, he was caught. So in that way, these simple things only, as a young boy, it was like conflict resolving only, So all these things this young boy is doing. So these things were informed to the king by this advisor, by one of his advisors. And and one more thing, like, though it is very simple, but there is a lot of wisdom and skillfulness is involved in sorting out that problem. Like a poor elderly woman made a necklace by tying together colorful threads. When she went to bathe, she laid the necklace atop her clothes. A young woman admired it and asked to try it on so she could check the size for making one of her own. So one old woman, she prepared one beautiful necklace and she kept it on her clothes and she started bathing. At that time, one young lady she comes and she started appreciating that necklace and she started requesting this old lady whether she could wear that necklace. And after wearing, she started running away. She ran off. The old woman quickly got dressed and chased the thief, that other lady. A crowd gathered and both women claimed the necklace was hers. The Bodhisattva asked each woman what fragrance they used on the necklace, because in those days, usually they used to they used to use some fragrance for the necklace beads also, and he asked them what kind of fragrance they use. The young woman, the thief woman, she said it was a fancy blended perfume, while the elderly lady answered that she could only afford some cheap one kind of fragrance. The Bodhisattva put the necklace in a bowl of water and asked the perfume seller to smell it. And he asked one perfume seller he summoned one perfume seller and he started finding out the smell, the perfume of the necklace. And he could say, that is one cheap fragrance. It is not like the costly fragrance that the thief was telling. So in that way the thief was caught. So here some of these small tips, small techniques, though they look very small, but many people, they don't get that kind of idea. But this young boy is getting that kind of idea and he could resolve so many issues. There are so many things, small and big. So many things are there in here. This Bodhisattva could solve. So here you should appreciate the way the comprehensive thinking and trying to look at the problem at its root itself. So that is what is called yoniso mansikara. You should penetrate into the root of the problem. Then only you will get the solution. That is how one should develop the wisdom. One tries to fix the things at the superficial level. That is not wisdom. So one should look at the sustainable solutions. Simply in the name of development and taking care of the human requirements. Many political leaders, they simply do some nonsense. They simply destroy the nature or do some hangama to get some wealth. Some of these materialistic countries, in the name of development, they are simply destroying the nature, destroying the health, destroying their minds, making people more and more greedy, making people more and more crave for the worldly things. That's what majority of the leaders are doing. But that is not wisdom. Only a few only a few leaders, they look at the root of the problem, the sustainability, how to develop the giving ability of the people so that they can be happy for a longer time. That is what is called the sustainable happiness, the sustainable lifestyle. That kind of sustainability, if it is there in the solutions, then it will be a permanent solution. So that kind of wisdom you can see this young boy who could settle a lot of issues, even at the superficial level also it will satisfy the people, and at the long term benefits also they used to have his solutions. So that is the way to develop the wisdom. So in that way this Maha Umagga, this Bodhisattva, he could solve so many solutions. It looks like a very long story. So during his life, as a young boy, as a teenager, as a youth, how he resolved so many issues, all those things are narrated in this story, and how he could teach lesson to this Senaka, the selfish and the foolish advisor of the king. All these things are narrated. Of course, you can go through, if you are interested in, you can go through this entire story. But we will draw some key takeaways from this story, where, as I was telling you, karmasu kaushalam, skillfully involving completely, wholeheartedly in resolving the issue. That is what is the key point to develop the wisdom parmi, the panya parmi. Not with half-heartedness, not with ego, not with selfishness, not with attachment, completely with an intention of resolving the issue. With absolute non-expectation, non-attachment, non-show-off, non-ego. Simply with an intention of resolving the issue. If the mind is used, and for the short term also and for the long term also, how to resolve the issue. That way, if the mind is used, then you are working on your panya parmi. Okay? And that's what is, like, say, very beautifully narrated in this Jataka tale, Mahavumagga Jataka, where this Bodhisattva was born, and he teaches so many people through his wisdom to resolve so many issues, and that's why this Jataka is famous for this panya parmi. Those who are really interested in cultivating this panya parmi, they should really appreciate each and every solution given by this Bodhisattva. And as I was telling you, his complete involvement in resolving the issues, even at the short, either it is short term or long term, how he used to give a permanent solution, how he used to give the solution to a small group, or even to the whole nation, even to the king also, even to the warring kings, or the kings who are, like, say, conflicting with each other. For such kind of problems also, how Buddha used to give, this Bodhisattva used to give solution, that is being narrated in this story. Okay? So in that way, of course, this Bodhisattva, he gives solution to give solution to so many people. Here again, after narrating this story, Buddha says, in that life, King Vedeha was one of my disciples. Among his disciples, there was one by name Laludai. So this Laludai was the previous life. In that life, King Vedeha, and Senaka was an earlier birth of Satchaka. There was one by name Satchaka. He was always used to argue and show off. I am superior, I am superior. So that was the nature of Satchaka. One of the, actually he was like one of the, one of the ascetics. Like he was having his own followers and all. They say he is the Jain ascetic. This naked ascetic he was. And of course, he was puffed up with his ego that he is superior and he is a better advisor. That's why he was like, actually he could not listen to Buddha even in his last life, in the Buddha's life also. Later at the time of death he could realize, and after that, after some 2 centuries of Buddha's death, again he was born as one of the monks in Sri Lanka, and there he became an arhat. That's what the scriptures say. And his name was Satchaka during the time of Buddha. That Satchaka was this Senaka, one of the chief advisors of this King Vedeha. When I was Bodhisattva Mahavumagga, that time this Senaka was this Satchaka only. The Satchaka who always used to argue and try to show off that he is intelligent. He was in that life, he was Senaka. And the other three advisors, among the, I was telling about four advisors. The other three advisors, like the present my disciples, who are like very close disciples of Buddha. One of the names of those are Pottapada, Ambatta and Pilotika. These three disciples of mine, they were in that time the other three advisors of King Vedeha. There was one more king who was very supportive of Buddha and Bodhisattva. So he was King Chulani. He was our Sariputta, the chief disciple. And again, in so many previous lives, the king, this Bodhisattva, Buddha's chief disciples like this, Sariputta, Moggallana and his chief attendant Ananda, they used to take birth in so many of Buddha's previous lives when he was Bodhisattva and was cultivating his paramis. They also used to cultivate their paramis by serving Bodhisattva. So in that way, all the good actions, they helped these people to become the chief disciples even during the last life of Buddha, and for Ananda to become the chief attendant. So in that way, Sri Buddha used to relate the present life, his disciples, to the previous life, that Bodhisattva's life, what they were, how they supported or how they started, how they created problem for Buddha. All those things Buddha used to relate and Buddha used to see from his omniscient knowledge, and he used to explain about the good and bad very clearly, so that supporting Buddha, supporting right view is the sole purpose of everyone. That's what Buddha used to narrate through these Jataka stories to his disciples, to his audience, to the kings, whether they are monks or lay people. That's what Buddha used to narrate. And even the Buddha's wife and father also, in many of his previous lives, mother, father and his relatives also in many of the previous lives, they used to be with the Bodhisattva. They used to support. That also Buddha used to relate. In that way, there are so many things, key takeaways we can see in these Jataka stories. Like how to develop these different paramis by completely putting forth one's all abilities in whatever they are doing, with complete mindfulness, with complete watchfulness, with complete intelligence, sharpness of the mind, without any ambiguity, how to respect the respectables, how to perform the actions with kaushala, yoga karma su kaushala, how to perform the things so skillfully, how to always keep this aspiration of nibbana, because that is like your mariner's compass. Mariners say this. That is an indicator. Without that compass, you can't travel in the life in a proper direction. They say mariner's compass, so which will show the direction for the mariners. Mariner's compass. So in the same way, this aspiration of nibbana used to put all these people together, whether Buddha's relatives, Buddha's disciples, Buddha himself. All these people, they used to work together in the previous lives also. That's why I used to tell the right view enthusiasts, like our meditators and all, they are really absorbed or grasped the spirit of right view, the superiority of right view, then serving right view is very, very crucial. The more you serve the right view, the more you absorb the right view, the more you be in the group of people who are practicing this right view. Now, in the future, after 1 year, after 5 years, after 10 years also, somehow you will be in touch with such people only. You will not go off track and you will not destroy yourself. You will not spoil yourself. And in the subsequent lives also, you will born with that right view, you will born with that aspiration to progress in that right view, and you will get such people only. So that's why that aspiration of Nibbana, that aspiration of being in the right view, all these things you can see in all these Jataka tales. That's why they used to come together. Not just in one life, in so many lives. That's how they could cultivate and progress in right view. Okay, so in that way you can deduce so many key takeaways from these Jataka tales. How these Punya Kriyas can be converted into Paramis with this aspiration of Nibbana. How it will help in bringing all these right people to be together and thereby perform or practice or fulfill these Paramis and perfections and Punya Kriyas with more enthusiasm, with more joy, with more the dynamism. So all these things we can see in these Jataka stories, in Jataka tales, and in today's Jataka tale, that is this Maha Ummagga Jataka, how this Bodhisattva was a merchant, young merchant. He could resolve so many issues, so many conflicts of different kinds. The conflicts of the issues pertaining to the health, issues pertaining to the natural calamities, issues pertaining to the human rivalry or human selfishness, how he could resolve. And that's what is the Panya, that's what is the wisdom, that's what is the message in this Jataka tale, Maha Ummagga Jataka. And the ways and means to develop this Panya also, you will get some insights. And that is the beauty of the Jataka stories. So those ideas, those tips and those takeaways, key takeaways, if you start imbibing in your life, then you will also get that ability to resolve or solve the issues, the personal issues, the family issues, or the societal issues, or the social issues which are around you. Definitely you can solve. And if you grow in this Panya Parami, you can solve the issues of the society, of the nation, of the whole world also. So that's what is the message of this today's Dhamma talk about how to develop these different paramis, especially through these stories, Jataka stories. Now, if you have some quick questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll conclude with one small chanting. If no questions, we'll conclude with one small chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada swati bhavantu te sukhi bhaveyan nidduko aham nicca aham viya idacha me sukhi hontu majjata chatavedino mami gammante dhamme satta hontu sukhi sada tato parancharadjesu chakkavalesu jantano. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sukhi hontu, mangal. May all of you be happy, healthy and peaceful. May all beings also be happy, healthy and peaceful. Sukhi hontu, mangal.